Good day everyone! Today we'll be discussing about Pantayong Pananaw, Bilang Diskursong Pangkabihasnan. We are Group 9. I am Rocky Castañeros. Together with Francis Hugo and Aaron Gamad, will be presenting Pantayong Pananaw by Zeus Salazar. Before we start discussing about Pantayong Pananaw, let us have a brief introduction about the author, Zeus Salazar. His full name is Zeus Salazar. He was born on April 20, 1934 at Tiwi, Albay. A brief description about him is he is a UP Diliman graduate. He is also a Filipino historian, an anthropologist, philosopher of history, and he is also known as the father of New Philippine historiography. Now let us proceed to the introduction of this subject. In 1974, Buod ng Pantayong Pananaw was articulated in a review requested by Malacanang for the Filipino Heritage Project. The criticism focused on its exclusivity, not inclusivity. It means pantayo, hindi pangkami. Encyclopedias targeted outsiders, especially the elite with foreign perspectives, and not the Filipino community. The language used is often foreign and not understood by most Filipinos. In the realm of cultural preservation and knowledge dissemination, the Filipino Heritage and Encyclopedia Project has been under scrutiny for its similarities to older encyclopedias, its unclear distinctions, and its elite collaboration. This report delves into the project's essence, its objectives, and the potential implication of its focus. Filipino heritage, while a commendable initiative, bears a striking resemblance to an older encyclopedia by Zoilo Galang. Sources suggest that this new project incorporates added content and features contributions from a diverse group of individuals. In the 1980s, there were discussions with Malacanang about potentially creating a similar encyclopedia, likely in English. However, a key concern raised at the time was how it would distinguish itself from Anglo-American encyclopedias. Planners of the Filipino Heritage Project faced a challenge in clarifying how their endeavor would differentiate itself from existing Anglo-American encyclopedias. Possible distinctions mentioned during the planning stages included the use of Filipino authorship, avoiding any allegations of copying from Filipino authors, and exploring collaboration with foreign experts. These uncertainties in direction may have contributed to skepticism about the project's uniqueness and its potential to accurately represent Filipino culture. Notably, the Filipino Heritage and Encyclopedia Project mirrors the historical pattern of elite collaborations with foreigners in various fields. This raises questions about whether it genuinely aims to reflect the entirety of the Filipino culture or if it primarily serves the interests of the English-speaking Filipino elite. While collaboration with experts from around the world can bring valuable perspectives, it is crucial to ensure that the project remains true to its roots and represents the diverse experiences of Filipinos. The essence of the Filipino Heritage Project lies in its ambition to create a Filipino version of an encyclopedia, undoubtedly influenced by foreign perspectives. It appears to be primarily targeting English-speaking Filipino elites, which suggests a focus on a particular demographic rather than the entire nation. This approach may result in a lack of inclusivity, potentially limiting its contribution to national development and understanding. In conclusion, the Filipino Heritage and Encyclopedia Project, while promising, faces challenges related to its differentiation from older encyclopedias, its elite-centric approach, and its potential to genuinely represent the broader spectrum of Filipino culture. As it moves forward, it should consider incorporating a more inclusive perspective to ensure its relevance and impact on a national scale. This report serves as a snapshot of the key issues surrounding the project, and further investigations and analysis are essential to fully understanding its implications and potential benefits for Filipino heritage and knowledge preservation. Ano nga ba talaga itong pantayong pananaw? Let us understand Pantayong Pananaw, essence of Pantayong Pananaw. At its core, Pantayong Pananaw centers on the internal interconnectedness and integration of various elements within a culture, including characteristics, values, knowledge, wisdom, aspirations, customs, behavior, and experiences. These facts find expressions through language within a distinct discourse or cultural context. This perspective provides a holistic framework for understanding and navigating the complexities of Filipino society and culture. Universal reality. Pananaw is not limited to a specific ethno-linguistic group or geographic region. It is a universal reality that permeates various ethno-linguistic groups in the Philippines and can be found there. This universal reality underscores its significance as a cultural and societal foundation. Implicit concepts in Filipino languages. The feature of Pantayong Pananaw is the inclusivity of pronouns within Filipino languages. Pronouns like kayo, kami, sila, and tayo plays a vital role in communication and cultural understanding. Tayo in particular encompasses not only the speaker but also all conversation partners, even those absent. Phrases like tayong mga Pilipino imply an implicit understanding that the conversation involves only Filipinos, illustrating the depth of cultural context embedded within the language. Cultural mental framework. Within the framework of Pantayong Pananaw, many concepts are implicitly understood and interconnected. These concepts, along with associated behaviors, collectively form a unique mentality that may pose challenges for outsiders to fully grasp without experiencing a similar holistic perspective. It is akin to a closed circuit of understanding where everyone comprehends the nuances without the need for explicit external factors. Holistic perspective, society and culture exhibit a true pantayong pananaw when everyone involved utilizes concepts and behavior with known meanings. This relies on common code or shared meanings, signifying a comprehensive connection of ideas and behaviors. In this way, the interplay of culture and society becomes a seamless tapestry of shared understanding. Role of a common language. A common language serves as the foundational bedrock for facilitating understanding and communication within Pantayong Pananaw. It provides the medium through which the intricacies of culture, values, and interconnectedness are conveyed and shared. Without a common language, the threads of Pantayong Pananaw would struggle to weave together the rich tapestry of Filipino culture. Pantayong Pananaw, with its emphasis on interconnectedness, cultural context, and implicit understanding, offers a profound insight into the Filipino cultural perspective. It transcends linguistic and regional boundaries, serving as a universal reality that defines the way Filipinos perceive and engage with their society and culture. As we explore this perspective further, it becomes evident that language, as a conduit for shared meanings, plays an indispensable role in preserving and transmitting the essence of Pantayong Pananaw to future generations. Illustration from ethno-linguistic groups. Within the rich tapestry of the Philippines' ethno-linguistic diversity, it becomes evident that each group possesses its own Pantayong Pananaw, expressed through their language. For example, in Tagalog, speakers share not only a common language but also unified beliefs, such as their reverence for Bathala, which is integral to their cultural overview. Inherent nature of Pantayong Pananaw. Pantayong Pananaw is more than just a concept. It is ingrained in the very fabric of life for its members when society and culture are cohesive. It is their way of life, understanding, and the lens through which they perceive the world around them. Limited exposure to other cultures. Members of these ethno-linguistic groups typically have limited exposure to cultures beyond their own. Their knowledge, behavior, and actions are confined to the boundaries of their society and culture. This confinement is palpable in their language, shared beliefs, and customs, which often remains insulated from external influences. Explanation within the same culture. When explaining aspects of their culture within their community, they employ a pansila perspective. This means they refer to others and not to their own. For instance, they might say, "This is how we are," "This is our behavior," or "This is how outsiders are." This perspective reflects an intrinsic focus on external reference points. Explaining to outsiders. However, when explaining their culture to outsiders or foreigners, they shift to "pang-kami" perspective. Here, their attention centers on their own society and culture, often comparing it to other systems. Depending on what is more widespread or dominant in the cultural or socio-political context, they may choose to communicate in their own language or employ another. For instance, a Tagalog from the 16th century visiting Brunei or Malacca might explain their customs and culture in Malay, the lingua franca in Southeast Asia at the time, or Tagalog, if their conversation partners understand Tagalog or are under Tagalog influence. Manifestation of Pantayong Pananaw within a linguistic group is a testament to the cultural richness and diversity of the Philippines. It underscores the importance of language as a vessel for conveying unique worldviews and perspectives. While these groups may have limited exposure to other cultures within their communities, their ability to shift their perspective when explaining their culture to outsiders exemplifies their adaptability and openness to cross-cultural dialogue. This insight into Pantayong Pananaw within the ethno-linguistic groups offers a window into the complexity of Filipino society and culture, inviting further exploration and appreciation of the intricate cultural mosaic that defines a nation. Diverse communication perspectives. In conflict situations, Tagalog people may label Bruneians as different, emphasizing distinctions. It is not uncommon for Tagalog people to employ what is known as Pangkayong Pananaw, signifying an outsider's view of another culture's people and customs. Colonialism's impact on Pantayong Pananaw. Colonialism has left a profound imprint on Pantayong Pananaw within various Filipino ethno-linguistic groups. Many lost their holistic perspectives, and instead, the colonial system emerged as the foundation for the future Filipino nation. The introduction of the Spanish language marked the inception of this colonial system, later replaced by Anglo-American influence. Reviving Pantayong Pananaw for nation building. Today, the Filipino nation finds itself in a unique position. It currently lacks a comprehensive perspective that harmonizes its diverse elements. Reviving Pantayong Pananaw is essential for building the nation's future. This revival entails promoting and enriching the existing holistic perspectives within the current socio-political context. The journey to nation building is a complex one, and the revival of Pantayong Pananaw represents a crucial step forward. acknowledging the diverse communication perspectives, understanding colonialism impact, and nurturing an independent Filipino identity are essential elements in an effort to build a stronger, more united Filipino nation. As the nation grapples with the challenges of a rapidly changing world, it is through a holistic perspective like Pantayong Pananaw that the Filipino people can chart a course towards greater understanding, harmony, and a shared vision for a brighter future.
Now we proceed to the different perspectives of Pantayong Pananaw. Pantayong Pananaw sa kasaysayan, a distinct historical perspective that uncovers the hidden narratives of history and emphasizes diverse worldviews in our understanding of the past. Meaning of the Filipino nation. Before the Spanish arrival in the 16th century, the Philippines thrived as a tapestry of diverse cultures and worldviews among ethno-linguistic groups. This era laid the foundation for the rich and varied cultural heritage that defines the Filipino people. The birth of the Filipino nation, as we understand it today, took root in the latter part of the previous century during Spanish colonial rule. Christian elites played a pivotal role in shaping the modern Filipino identity through their dedication to education, religion, and the promotion of social-political awareness.
Role of acculturated Ladinos. Ladinos, a term referring to the elite group of individuals deeply influenced by Spanish culture and language, played a pivotal role in shaping the Filipino identity. Ladinos were among the first to embrace and become proficient in Spanish. They served as essential translators and assistants to the Spanish friars in their efforts to Christianize the Filipinos. This role facilitated communication and cultural exchange. The acculturation of Ladinos contributed significantly to the merging of Spanish elements with indigenous Filipino culture. It resulted in the emergence of a new culture that bore the traces of both worlds, creating a unique Filipino identity. The influence of acculturation persisted into the American colonial period, evident in bilingual poems like One Day Isang Araw, I Saw Nakakita, A Bird Isang Ibon, exemplifying the enduring impact of Ladino culture. The role of acculturated Ladinos in introducing the Spanish language and aspects of Spanish culture was instrumental in modernizing the Philippines. Additionally, they facilitated a rich cultural exchange between indigenous Filipino culture and Western influences, further strengthening the Filipino identity. Also, the interaction between the Spanish colonizers and Ladinos was a profoundly intricate event in history. Their translation work was of paramount importance, extending beyond language to incorporate Western thinking and culture into the archipelago. Simultaneously, it introduced archipelagic ideas and culture into the colonial framework.
Commencing in the third decade of the 18th century, Ladinos began integrating into the Spanish colonial system in increasing numbers. Ladinos assumed diverse roles including escribanos, clerks, secretaries, abogados, lawyers, or associates to the Spanish alcaldes and officials. Some, seeking a religious path, became secular priests when acceptance as friars or Jesuits was elusive. The Spanish regime established seminaries in response to the growing need for priests, thus reinstating the native clergy, secular priests, as a colonial policy. Filipino priests encompassing various backgrounds began serving in churches and overseeing parishes, contributing to the spread of Christianity. Secular Filipino priests rooted in the Ladino group replaced those with close ties to the friars and Spaniards. Competing with the friars who initially held a dominant position, the secular priests' proficiency in the Spanish language and culture challenged the status quo, leading to mockery and insults. Initially private, insults escalated, even from prominent Spanish friars like Fray Gaspar de San Agustin. The insults directed at Filipino secular priests and others who challenged the established order reflected a clash between cultures and authority. Emergence of Filipino Ilustrados. The roots of Ilustrados can be traced back to secular priests who aspired to attain a status equal to that of Spanish friars and sought control of parishes, advocating secularization. Although originating from the Ladino group and some who had become secular priests, they underwent a significant transformation. They pursued education outside the church, attending newly established colleges and universities. Their focus shifted towards real-world matters, particularly social and political issues, making them articulate advocates. Ilustrados found themselves the targets of insult from Spaniards, particularly regarding the natives. These insults largely went unnoticed by the majority of Christians due to their delivery in a foreign language, emphasizing the cultural gap. Acculturated Ilustrados, fluent in Spanish and culturally adapted to Spanish ways, grappled with uncertainty regarding their social status within the colonial system. Despite their efforts to embrace Spanish culture, they faced exclusion from the Spanish colonial elite. In response to derogatory Spanish views, Ilustrados embraced the rejection by the Spanish. They adopted the term Filipinos to assert their identity, emphasizing their pre-existing culture and historical interactions with other nations before the arrival of the Spaniards.
Rizal believed that when the Spaniards arrived, indigenous Filipino culture had already experienced a decline as Filipinos lost interest in preserving their rich heritage. Under Spanish colonial rule, Filipinos were often compelled into military captains both locally and abroad. These campaigns brought wealth, but it did not benefit Filipinos. Instead, the riches went to foreign Spaniards. Rizal envisioned a resurgence of Filipino culture once the Spaniards departed. He held the hope of bringing back the enlightenment of old, a rekindling of the cultural heritage that had diminished during the colonial era. Formation of a hybrid national culture. The propagandistas challenged the Spanish narrative of bringing enlightenment to the Philippines, asserting that Filipinos possessed their own forms of civilization and did not lack cultural richness. They believed in the importance of conveying this perspective to the Spanish oppressors, seeking recognition of Filipino culture and identity. Rather than drawing from native cultural heritage, the propagandistas based their intellectual resistance on European liberalism, aligning with the broader European tradition. The journey to build a national culture and Filipino identity began with the propagandistas, but took on foreign language and concepts centered around the veneration of European civilization rather than a distinct national civilization. This deviation led to the neglect of indigenous roots, resulting in a regional form of Spanish culture, largely influenced by Indios and Mestizos turned Spaniards, with minimal reflection of original indigenous heritage. Impact of American arrival. As the Americans arrived, the Ilustrados aimed to showcase Filipino excellence in various fields in medicine, law, engineering, arts, and even beauty pageants. This period witnessed the rise of an elitist cultural mindset, emphasizing the emergence of the first Filipino in various domains. This mindset spurred a relentless pursuit to validate Filipino accomplishments through foreign standards, often requiring recognition from outsiders before local acknowledgement. This constant need for validation led to a national inclination to prove that Filipinos were not too late in their achievements, perpetuating a reliance on external recognition and saying gaya-gaya putumaya or copycat. From the Spanish era to the present, Filipino intellectuals have often expressed themselves in foreign languages, striving to demonstrate their capability and belonging within foreign intellectual circles. Expressing themselves in foreign languages represented a desire to assimilate into Spanish, American, and even Japanese cultures before aspiring to embrace a distinct Filipino identity. This linguistic shift often required detachment from and even abandonment of indigenous Filipino culture. It was a complex process of temporarily setting aside their own culture to later incorporate selected elements into their creations. These quests often involved striving for uniqueness in their works crafted in Spanish and later English. During the American era, Filipino intellectuals continued their efforts initiated during the propaganda movement. They aimed to construct a national culture for Americanized Filipinos and English-speaking Americans, with this creation occurring within foreign standards and language. The Filipino society and culture over time became dominated by a colonial perspective directed from foreign influences toward foreign audiences and often serving foreign interests. Collaboration between Filipino elites and foreigners united by language and colonial categories shaped this narrative. Local and ethnic group perspectives, while intact, were underutilized in the formation of a nation, limiting broader awareness and nation-building efforts. After examining our historical perspective, Let's go forward to the Pantayong Pananaw sa kasalukuyan. In our exploration of contemporary perspectives, we delve into the cultural and societal dynamics that have shaped the Philippines in recent times. Formation of a divided culture and society. The trajectory of the nation's development under the guidance of the elite gave rise to the significant cultural and societal divide known as the Great Cultural Divide. As a result, two distinct cultural and social spheres emerge. The first being the culture of the acculturated elite. This segment of society has been marked influenced by the adoption of English, followed by Spanish, and briefly Japanese during a period of collaboration. And second is the culture of the common people. In contrast with the elite, this cultural sphere is characterized by the prevalence of Tagalog or Filipino as a lingua franca. Simultaneously, regional landscapes retain their significance, particularly with the rural landscapes of the nation.
Development of elite culture. Elite culture in the Philippines owes its formation to the political aspirations of intellectuals and acculturated social classes. This development follows a distinct sequence beginning with the Ladinos, who later evolved into secular priests, ilustrados, and eventually modern intellectuals. These modern intellectuals encompass scholars, fellows, writers, and visitors who ventured abroad during both colonial and contemporary periods, thus perpetuating the legacy of the 19th century ilustrados. One pivotal phase of this evolution involved the gradual adoption of English and American practices. This transformation was significantly influenced by the presence of scholars and the elite's adaptability, particularly during the tumultuous period of Spanish-American War. Furthermore, the educational system played a crucial role in embedding English and American culture, cementing the role of English in shaping the emerging Filipino nation. While the shift towards an elite culture embracing English and American values was monumental, it was not devoid of complexities and challenges. Literary works, including those of Nick Joaquin, provide insights into the difficulties and tensions faced during this transition. The influence of scholars and the calculated choices made by the elite added further layers of intricacy. Nevertheless, the educational system played a crucial role in promoting English and American culture and facilitating the growth of an expanded category known as pensionados, or modern acculturated individuals. Their emergence coincided with the success of the American-influenced education system. The education system. The education system stands as a formidable force in molding the thoughts and perspectives of newly acculturated individuals. These individuals, driven by a sense of agency, embark on the construction of what is perceived as the national culture. A significant facet of cultural production, particularly in the realm of literature in English, seamlessly integrated into the education system under American rule. This assimilation is palpable in the literary contributions of figures like Camilo Osias, whose pioneering short stories and poems by Filipinos in English-American language found their place in educational anthologies. Subsequently, the aspirations of writers and even scientists aspire excellence beyond national borders, particularly in the United States. Simultaneously, there was a desire to expand their influence within their native clearing, which transcended the confines of the Philippines and extended to obscure locations with unspecified inhabitants. Notable figures include Esteban Javellana, Jose Garcia Villa, and contemporary writers like Noriega, Abad, and Rosca. While their works may not attain widespread readership, they captivate audiences more effectively through literature in Tagalog or Filipino and other Filipino languages. The impact of the education system extends beyond intellectual pursuits. It also fills pivotal roles across various domains. Economy, encompassing trade, banking, industry, technology, and numerous other sectors. Culture, extending its reach to the education system itself, as well as science, literary arts, humanities, and entertainment, among others. Religion, facilitating the transition from departing Spanish religious influences to the propagation of Protestantism and new evangelization endeavors across regions such as the Cordilleras, Mindoro, Mindanao, Sulu, and beyond. And lastly, politics, encompassing all echelons of governance from the highest levels, executive, legislative, and judiciary, to local governance such as provinces and municipalities, as well as various grassroots movements including revolutionaries and military undertakings. In all these areas, the dissemination and acquisition of concepts, practices, and ideas predominantly occur in the English language and are often perceived through the lens of an American perspective. This entails viewing them from a non-native or foreign standpoint, underscoring the profound influence of the education system on the formation of contemporary Philippine culture and society.
Now, for the next part, we will talk about the Great Cultural Divide or Dambuhalang Pagkakahating Pagkalinangan. We set the stage for a discussion on cultural dynamics in the Philippines. We highlight the profound influence of American and Western thought on Filipino intellectuals, showcasing how the struggle for freedom has been integrated into the historical context of the United States and Europe. Additionally, we point out the central conflict between conservative and revolutionary ideologies, which will be a recurring theme throughout the presentation. Ideological conflict. So we delve deeper into the ideological conflict within the Philippines. Despite differing objectives, conservatives and liberals share common mental categories, demonstrating the complexity of Filipino political thought. Furthermore, we highlight the alignment of revolutionaries with anti American forces like Russia and China, and their propensity to import foreign ideas and movements into the Philippines, shaping the nation's intellectual landscape. Now, the cultural divide. So, here we explore the existence of two distinct cultures within Filipino society: the national culture and the healthy people culture. We emphasize that the national culture is significantly influenced by elite leaders and their collaboration with Americans, while the healthy people culture is deeply rooted in the historical experiences of Filipino communities. This cultural divide lays the foundation for understanding the complexity of Filipino society. The influence of the elite in shaping Filipino culture is the focus of this slide. We highlight how the elite propagate the national culture through the education system, primarily using English as the medium. Moreover, we emphasize that this influence extends beyond education to encompass the entire socio-political, economic, religious, and psychological structure of the nation, illustrating the extent of foreign concepts' impact. Additionally, we note that the close ties that many Filipino elites maintain with the United States. Now, continuing from the previous slide, the influence of American culture. This one specifically underscores the heavy influence of American culture and ideas on Filipino intellectuals, particularly among the elite. We highlight how political leaders frequently visit the United States and they draw from American ideologies, which significantly shapes the intellectual landscape in the Philippines. Now, the result, this causes cultural schizophrenia. So, this slide will address the cultural confusion experienced by Filipino elites. We explore their identity crisis, where they tend to idealize Filipinos when compared to foreigners while simultaneously criticizing what they perceive as true Filipino behavior. This dichotomy reflects the complex relationship between the elite and broader Filipino society. There is also the presence of elite exploitation, where we delve into the practical implications of the cultural divide between elites and the general population. We point out that politicians often employ the vernacular to communicate with the masses, but enact laws and policies in English. This disconnect between language and governance contributes to a strained political relationship between the elites and the people, highlighting issues of representation and cultural exploitation. However, there is also cultural connection, where we explore the connections between foreigners in the Philippines and Filipino culture. We highlight how foreigners often adopt elements of Filipino culture, illustrating the influence of the Philippines on the global stage. Additionally, we mention ethnic movements that focus on safeguarding their interests within the nation, further emphasizing the rich cultural tapestry of the Philippines. Together with that, we also have cultural commonality. We stress the existence of common concepts and ideas shared among Filipinos, regardless of their diverse ethno-linguistic backgrounds. We advocate for a focus on the vertical perspective of Filipino culture, which emphasizes shared cultural values and experiences. Rather than just ethno-linguistic differences, this perspective underscores the strength of the people's culture, deeply rooted in the nation's cultural environment. So, to conclude on my part, we emphasize the importance of rooting the national culture in the people's welfare, avoiding blind imitation of Western cultures. Instead, we encourage the development of a vertical perspective that embraces the Philippines' unique cultural dynamics, fostering unity and a deeper appreciation of Filipino heritage.
Throughout its history, the Philippines has been subject to a number of foreign invasions. These invasions have shaped the Filipino people's history, culture, traditions, and beliefs. This has come to a close with our discussion on Ang Pantayong Pananaw Bilang Diskursong Pangkabihasnan by Zeus Salazar. This has been Group 9 presented to you by Castañeros, Gamad, and Hugo at maraming salamat sa mga nakikinig.